Any question on this? Any
See, the study material as such had built up in 715 pages. Okay. Prior to 1982 and after 1982, you have to understand the basic subject as such. Because I think most of them might have not born or might be children when you were in the year 1982. Prior 1982,
No one.
no one. Okay. Prior to 1982, there was only tax on goods, sale of goods act. What most of them have done it, in course of time they wanted to save taxes. What they have done is, suppose I want to sell a fan. What I did was, in those years, what they did is, they called the installation of a fan work order. Once the work order, that is not a sale of goods act. And at that time, prior to 1982, there was one case called Gannon-Trunkerley's case. In Gannon-Trunkerley's case, what they said was, in works contract, goods and services both are embedded in it, and they are not divisible, so they can't be called as sale of goods act, no tax. So from that time, using the Gannon-Trunkerley's case, people started avoiding taxes illegally, calling the sale of goods also as installation of fan, installation of air conditioner, installation of a lift. That means it's a work order, but not a sale of goods. So that had dented the revenues of the government exchequer like anything. Then they started invoking the article number 366 of the Indian Constitution, where it gives definitions. Mostly any act will find definitions in section 2. But in Constitution, if you read it, most of the definitions you will find in article 366. Then they added one more clause, 29A and other 29, stating that when there is a transfer of property in goods in a works contract, that should be made taxable. Then how to divide it, and all these things have come into the picture. And then works contract became taxable from the year in the 1982. Then they started calling the transfer of property in goods involved in a works contract became taxable. Then many practitioners started suggesting, who know the entire gamut of the law, they told us make the contract divisible, such that the materials will be taxed as goods and the services will not be taxable. That way, many of them started dividing it, and then came some builders association case. What could be taxed? What is services? And then in such circumstances, the division has become a big task. Some people found comfort in indivisible contract. In indivisible contract, some composite rate is made it that would have been more burdensome to the public exchequer. But with practitioners with wisdom and the associate public who are wise enough, they mostly have divided the materials and labor separately, and they used to enter two contracts, and they used to take the advantage of the tax, and they saved much. But some practitioners added it, making it indivisible. And then in the works contract, some people made it dividing, some portion could be material, some portion would be 30%. Present division was made, that we say, suppose substantial materials constitute the contract, stating 70% as goods, 30% they used to give deduction such that no service tax on. Then our Kopadi Wala Manmohan Singh started taxing service tax separately, incorporating again the definition invoking the Constitution of India, 5% like that. Then also people started dividing the service tax and services and divisible. Even today, I can speak in 2 minutes to complete the subject. I can talk for 2 hours. But 2 hours, if I suggest you, always divide works contract into the 2 contracts, that is goods and services separately. In absence, it will be a several burdensome to the SSC public at large. And from then forward, people, the tug of war was there between the taxpayer and tax collector. In the tug of war, many judgments have come. Whether Supreme Court judgments are binding for us or not is the biggest question today. When the Constitution was formed in the year 1950, and they said 5 bench will be the constitutional bench. At that time, there were 8 judges in the Supreme Court. 5 out of 8 is majority. In the preamble of the Constitution, it was mentioned that democracy is necessary. Once you say democracy, through democracy to deliver justice, there should be majority principle. By majority principle, 5 out of 8 is majority. Since the year 1956, the majority principle got disappeared because the Supreme Court number of judges act had come in the year 1956, increasing the number of Supreme Court judges to 10. Then 5 out of 10 is not majority. That means democracy was disappearing since the year 1956 in the judiciary. Whether those judgments are binding to the public at large or not, to the executive and legislature, to the best of my knowledge, they might not be binding to the executive and legislature, but whatever I say, except by the voluntary choice and discussion of the executive and also legislature to honor the Supreme Court as such. So they were honoring it since past. Nowadays the conflict has come whether to honor the judiciary decisions or not. Conflict has come who is great. And mostly neither more or less is the best concept. Rather than claiming that we are more, we are more. The 3 pillars or 4 pillars you say. Suppose you say executive, legislature and judiciary are 3 pillars. Considering media as the 4th pillar, 4 pillars are necessary for rules of the Constitution. Suppose any pillar is more or less, the roof will be disturbed. Am I right? When you have 2 lakhs, 1 lakh is more, 1 lakh is less, what will happen? We are handicapped. So, the 4 pillars of the democracy, or to say the Constitution of India, should act in consonance, balancing and checking with each other. But that is now disturbed because there is no democracy in judiciary. That was the opinion that I extracted from the speeches of Vice President of India and also the 14 queries raised by the President of India, and not to talk more about it because I was injuncted not to talk, and I'll proceed to the subject. Okay. So now a treatise on EPC contract, I have made it as an index with first 25 pages I have written. Later I added supplementary notes at the end, supplementary notes 1 and 2. Now we will discuss about 1 to 25 and go ahead, right? I already told about the Constitution introduction on indirect taxes. Prior to the 46th Constitutional Amendment and after the Constitutional Amendment also I told you. Because prior to the 46th Constitutional Amendment, there was severe denting of revenue to the government tax structure. For that reason, there was an amendment in the definition of the charging the transfer of property in works contract as for charging to the tax. Okay. Bifurcation of works contract is inevitable. States power to tax, and whether constitutionally it is valid or not was raised, and the matter had gone to the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court had held it constitutionally valid. One more section I would like to invoke on this day, that is article number 142 of the Constitution of India. If they invoke it, 142, that is binding to even the executive and legislature. But unfortunately, that is lacking democracy. Okay. Impact on GST. Again, I'm telling you, emphasizing it, the 46th Constitutional Amendment laid the groundwork for GST. Earlier, there was no taxation prior to the 46th Constitutional Amendment on services. Later, that made a ground for GST. Okay. I will not be emphasizing more on the 46th Constitutional Amendment because inherently it is seen in our GST taxation today. Now, EPC, what I mean by, what the public at large mean by EPC is engineering, procurement and construction. Engineering means services, procurement of goods, and construction is, suppose I take buy a machinery. design may be there, design services may be there. Consequent to the design, making of the item, after that construction of the services. Sometimes the procurement material may be standardized, sometimes may not be standardized. Lift. Most lifts are standardized, materials are standardized, they assemble it with the design. Some lifts, special designs are necessary. They make special designs, engineering services separately, procurement separately, and construction separately. Now, sometimes they give concessions to some machinery. Incidentally, recently, to encourage solar power plants, they started giving 5% discharge. But solar power systems, because that is gaining essence and importance today. Okay, I am going ahead to what is supplier's perspective and what is your contractor's perspective, recipient perspective. So two perspectives we have to think. So that means supplier means your seller. Today it is being called a supplier. Earlier it was called a seller. Whether a seller or supplier, one and the same. But today in the GST Act, the concept of supplier is brought into the Act, and we have to talk as a supplier. Okay, now the basic is section 219 stating about works contract, and one is mixed supply and composite contract. What these three mean, I will not be writing the exact definition. You read on your own. I hope that you know the very definitions, but how they are interpreted by the SSC public, by the public at large, and also by the representatives like tribunals, GST officers, high courts and Supreme Courts will go ahead with the discussion. Now, in the context of renewable energy, I am talking about, by and large, they wanted to encourage power because the basic necessity for every one of us, they want to tax it at 5%. But unfortunately, the greedy GST officers or GST authorities want to take it as works contract and levy it 18%. Whether that is right or wrong, you will see it. To best of my opinion, again is the basic principle of honesty, commercial honesty is not being maintained by the department. Now the first point, in the context of renewable energy, it is interesting to note of the following. The first point, you just read here, what government had held it. The supply of goods at 12% and supply of services 18%. Provided you clearly make it the goods and services separate, then there is a possibility. Otherwise, considering composite supply, whatever the way you call it. Appellate authority, again, Giriraj Renewables Private Limited. One they had gone to before Maharashtra, and another one they had gone before Chennai. Okay, what they have said, they did not accept that the concept and falls within the definition of works contract. They had gone and invoked the Schedule 2, stating that this is a supply of services and started levying at 18%. That too retrospectively from the year 1917. Whether advanced ruling authorities are justified or not, I will leave it to the members present here. Okay. Then again, Prizo India Private Limited, again, they are charging at 18%. For renewable energy, like solar energy, they say they wanted to encourage it, levying at 5%. Why so? Department authorities are considering the same as works contract, bringing it to within the purview of Schedule 2, stating that it is a supply of services and levying at 18%. Are they justifiable? I leave it to the members. And okay, again the fourth point, same. Given the apparent difference in views in the above cited AR and appellate advanced ruling authorities, which were pronounced prior to the amendment, again in the year 2021, again they list out the notifications. I gave the notifications copy separately. You just check up. EPC contracts other than renewable energy will also need a threadbare analysis to check whether the contract results in an immovable property. That being so, it will be works contract services. In this context, reference of AAR, Tamil Nadu in the case of Tata Projects Limited, is of relevance, wherein it was held that establishment of an integrated cryogenic engine and stage test facility at ISRO population complex Mahendragiri is a composite contract wherein various supplies of goods and services are naturally bundled together. Supply of materials in conjunction with the service of erection of the system provided by the applicant at the integrated cryogenic engine and stage test facility, making all the system together as nimble property. The whole contract is a works contract. The moment he is selling works contract, you want to invoke taxation at 18% on the value. I believe it is unfair. The best way, suggestion, who are matured and experts in the GST would always suggest to break down the goods and materials and services separately and work out the tax burden or liabilities. But most of them are not doing for the sake of simplicity. If you want to resort to simplicity, there will be loss. The savings would be disappear. So I always suggest your accountant divides materials and labor separately, then there is no problem. See what happening is, suppose solar power system is there. They said 5% is taxes. But what that integrated facility, the SSC public, what they were doing with all the materials purchased, they are adding even the installation charges, engineering services to it, and claiming it as solar power system and claiming 5%. Well, the department is telling it is not a solar power system chargeable liable at 5%. We want to charge it as a works contract as supply of services at 18% per annum. To the best of my view, 5% can be made chargeable, but department is not accepting it, but constitutionally unfair. Despite that, they are going ahead and charging it 18%. The only alternative available for the SSC public at large is to divide the goods and also the services separately and reduce the burden to the extent possible. Otherwise, they want to treat it as a works contract, leaving at 18% per annum. Okay. Now the definition, 230, 274 definitions, eligible to claim input credit, all these things are important. Eligibility of input tax credit again is an important issue. Earlier in one point of time, they have defined in the 17.5D clause in Schedule 2, they called it as plant or machinery. Incidentally, later they said it is a defect in the drafting. They said retrospectively from the year 1917, they amended it. Overruling even the Supreme Court decision that was cleared in the year 2024, that was in October 24, and brought a circular overruling a Supreme Court decision also. But still, again, I'm telling you, Supreme Court decision is logically correct. But despite that, we have to see how things go ahead further. ITC on works contract service is blocked and restricted when supplied for construction of movable property, other than plant and machinery, or where it is an input service to further supply of works contract. I'm using the word ITC block. Okay. Plant and machinery, explanation to Section 17 of GST Act is defined to mean apparatus, equipment and machinery fixed on to earth by foundation or structural support that are used for making outward supply of goods or services or both, and include such foundation and structural support but excludes land, buildings or any other civil structures, telecommunication towers, pipelines. But this exclusion was unfair, despite that exclusion being followed and complied. Okay, the end recipient works contract service contracting. 17.5, yes. And there is one clause D. They called plant or machinery. In other places, they called as plant and machinery. And that the plant or machinery, they said it is a defect in drafting error. And subsequently, recently, they recommended the replacement of plant and machinery by plant and machinery. Okay, superseding the decision of Supreme Court Apex Court judgment. At the end, I gave in the supplementary notes. Okay, and this again. Okay, other plant in ITC on goods or services are both received by a taxable person for construction of an immovable property other than plant or machinery on his own account, including when such goods or services are both are used in the course of furtherance of business is ineligible. It is interesting to note that in section 17(5)d, the phrase used is plant or machinery. Now this phrase is replaced by plant and machinery and not plant and machinery in section 75(c). The phrase plant or machinery has not been defined in GST law, and therefore it would be appropriate to borrow the meanings from any other law which may be akin to the GST transaction tax laws of the general. See, actually, suppose I am rendering construction services or rental services. I had to build some towers, buildings, about 20 apartments or 200 apartments. That means I am giving a rental service. In such case, the building asset is a plant. What all the GST paid should be made eligible for input credit that was being denied now by the recently, retrospectively from the year 2017. But whatever, most MNC companies will be take care and caution such that keeping the large gross profit margins such that they can absorb the shock absorbing capabilities of this government authorities. So 100 rupees they have cost everything. They try to charge 100 rupees additionally, such that any consequences of burdens from the government authorities can be absorbed. Suppose a coffee can be made available for 10 rupees, 50 rupees, and 500 rupees. If you go a star hotel, they will charge you 500 rupees. The cost may be 200 rupees for him, 300 rupees is margin. So business strategies differ from person to person. Okay, and the person should be capable of selling strategically. If they can sell with larger margin, any HSE, it can absorb the consequences of unfair conduct of the judiciary or the executive or the legislature in actions. And many SSA public have to leave their locations. Mostly SMEs are losing their position in the strategically because they could not price and sell their products strategically. They are losing. You will not find so many SMEs now surviving. And in next generation of the SME business community are going for an employment in MNCs where they can work with a larger remuneration of 1 lakh or 2 lakhs per month. So the why charters are going to the MNCs also big companies, I'm telling you, because there is no survival for small and medium enterprises for the reason that of the greediness of the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. It is very difficult to manage that. So many of the SMEs are, closing their organizations. Earlier in Vijayawada, there were 50 to 60 dal mills. Today, you hardly find 5 or 6 dal mills in Vijayawada. Just to understand why people are closing. They have sold all their assets like land buildings and letting out their money for interest or money lending, sharing some people they sold for real estate purpose with building for development agreements. And they're withdrawing themselves from the business. Only large companies are surviving. That was to say, today oligarchy is ruling in India, but not only India, all over the world at large, and entire global village is under the control of oligarchs. Because a company is being called, a country is being called as India Incorporation. They're not calling India Republic. If you go to the Economic Times, you find India Incorporation, but not India Republic. That was to say, they're treating this India as a company, as a corporate world, but not as a republic, the social secular responsibilities. That means, earlier East India Company owned India. Today, Goldman Sachs and their cartel were holding possessing or owning India. And their membership are competing with each other who should lead the global village. And Blackstone wanted to replace Goldman Sachs, and their cartel is on Midtown Manhattan in New York. Be that as it may be, entire 3 pillars of a constitution, if there is a democracy, they can manage democracy and English speaking. If the 2 elements are available in any country, that country can be called as incorporated company. Be that as it may be. Now, they can get the decrees or rules in their favor by managing the parliament. Okay, they will be dealing with $1,000 billion business. So all small sectors, medium sectors are disappearing now in India. I no exception for it. Okay, oligarchs are ruling the global village. Therefore, EPC contracts is become the law of oligarchs. That means if any member joins oligarchs, they may need the subject, otherwise may not be necessary. But small contracts, always I suggest to divide the materials and also labor service separately and charge it. At least some money you can save, despite some accounting pain. Okay. So therefore, if an EPC contract involves importation of large value machinery, it may be worth exploring whether the contractor can import the good directly by splitting the contract or entering separate contract where the transfer of property and goods is made in favor of the contractee at the time of importation, and the installation and commissioning of the machinery is executed under a separate contract. Whether myself or any other mature tax practitioner will always suggest to separate the goods and also services separately. The pros and cons of splitting EPC contract, both from a business as well as commercial perspective, will have to analyze it before executing the same, considering transfer of the risk to the contractor who is responsible for designing, procurement, construction, and commissioning of the project. Now, manufacturing and other operation, warehousing regulations. Why warehousing has become important and manufacturing and warehousing? In warehousing, the large space, it will operate like economic zones, wherein there is no taxation. And suppose you supply to the warehouse, whatever the tax paid, it becomes zero rate and you get a duty refund. In some cases, in warehousing also, okay, under custom duty deferment, no interest liability, limited to the subject of EPC contract, this scheme allows all the indirect tax benefits that an EO is entitled to. Hence, EOU scheme is not separately listed as a benefit here too. If the EOC contracts involve high value of import of capital goods, the scheme that merits an evaluation. Note, the Finance Act 2023 inserted Section 65A in Customs Act 1962. Effective date yet to be notified, which inter alia seeks to withdraw IGST and CGST compensations as exemption currently made available to all imports under this scheme, which means once the said section is made effective, duty deferment is applicable only to the basic customs duty but not additional duties. CPE had given in July 2000 issued an instruction that MUA 19 permission should not be granted for warehousing of imported solar panels, solar modules, and related accessories declared as capital good to generate electricity from sunlight. However, Honorable Delhi High Court, in the case of Acme Hirga Power Private Limited, has struck down the said instruction, which denied the benefits of warehousing of solar power generating units under MOVA scheme, while also stating that it is open for the government to adopt appropriate remedial measures if they be of the opinion that solar power generation by virtue of permission granted under Section 65 is negatively impacting local generators or distort the level playing field, namely issue of such instructions instructing the benefits is ultra-virus. If the government so believes, it should take the path of amending the scheme and the relevant provisions. This matter is now contested by the Commissioner of Customs before the Supreme Court of India, that is on the diary 55746-2024, listed on 6th January. Okay, they wanted to restrict the benefits, and while so, the Delhi High Court said you cannot restrict it. The matter, they amended to circulars or something, but they said it is not. Some people, SSC public, were going against the circular. So department had gone to and appeared, put their matter before Supreme Court of India. Further, the government has in fact taken the path of amending the provisions. Section 65 of the Customs Act is proposed to be amended by the Finance Bill 2024 and was amended that allows the central government restrict certain manufacturing process operations in warehouses for specific classes of goods if deemed necessary in the public interest. This section will be implemented through a notification in the official gazette. In simpler terms, the amendment gives the government the power to control what can be manufactured within bounded houses, ensuring it aligns with public interest considerations. That means what to be restricted, what not to be restricted. They wanted to control. So it applies to manufacturing processes and operations within warehouses, just like EOUs. The central government has the power to impose restrictions. Basis restrictions are based on public interest consideration, notifications. Restrictions will be officially communicated through a gazette notification. And this I am ending the part of indirect taxes or GST part, having impact on EPC contracts. A conclusion in way forward, I always suggest you to divide materials and services separately and take the whatever the benefits that are available. Otherwise, the department or taxing authorities, or whether you call legislature executive, will take advantage of collecting 18% rather than the concessional rate available, like your solar power system at 18%. I mean, solar concession available at 5%. Instead of 5%, they may collect 18%, treating the same as works contract and setting it as supply of services invoking section 75, I mean schedule 2. Okay. Now, if you have any doubt on this part, I will answer right now. Again, I will add, I have made some notes in supplement 2, supplementary notes as 1, 2 at the last. After the judgments and advance rulings, we will go ahead further. If you have any doubts, I will right now, I will answer. I am leaving it to the members. Okay. Now, controversies on EPC contracts under the Income Tax Act. Again, EPC contracts, large oligarchs will participate. And all the business and exoneration committees of small scale industries, they are going as employees, whether they become engineers, whether they become chartered accountants, cost accountants, whatever. Independent practice is not beneficial as it was earlier because the economy is oligarchy in the global village at large, and all, I mean, it is very hard to run as a small scale and medium enterprises except by joining the flow of the oligarchs. Suppose you go against a big fish, the big fish will eat you. Am I right? When you go and sail along with the fish, it is difficult for the fish to eat. So I suggest you to go by the wave. And I do not suggest SMEs because earlier I used to draft 2 partnership deeds every week. When I was with my father at the age of 17 years, every week I used to draft at least 2 partnership deeds. In those days, my father used to charge 300 rupees per partnership deed. And that means I was earning 600 rupees when I was a college going boy studying intermediate. And just to understand what, he had got 9 children, 5 boys and 4 girls to perform the marriage. And you could wait at least 3 years. When the suppose client did not give for 3 years, you used to wait and 3rd year, 4th year, client to give a lump sum fee. And just you understand because there were so many small scale people forming as a partnership firm and doing the business. Even today, I am advocating that the partnership firm should not be charged of tax. Earlier, if you get 1 rupee, 70% department used to take it. Government authorities used to collect it. Between 1975 to 85, the scenario I am telling you, what should be the lie I have to tell? The SSC will come. What lie I have to encourage? That is of the practitioner. What lie I have to accept is the concern of the tax officers. That means there was enforced dishonesty, in particular during the years 1975 to 85. Progressively from the year 1985, the department of whatever liberal, simple, but mostly it has gone into the favor of oligarchs. Oligarchs could capture, in progressive you have gone, where the fish who could eat many fish had become big fish. If you can eat other fish and become oligarchs, you survived, otherwise you did not survive. The oligarchs will eat a big fish, will eat a small fish and become a big fish. I don't know whether you accept it or not. Even Narada had told Dharmaraja, small fish will be consumed by big fish. And small fish only become the fish, eatable by the big fish. Not my word, even Narada had told to Dharmaraja. So don't worry. And that way, big fish will eat small fish always. So don't become the feed of the big fish. Be careful. And even in chartered accountancy profession, big four are capturing all the people, chartered accountants. And the small entrepreneurs who wanted to become a chartered accountant have become difficult. But now they influenced the department. I mean, instead of chartered accountants of India, company sector, even stating that the quality control of auditing practices, at least two chartered accountants should examine. One is engagement partner, reviewing partner. Then only earlier, suppose I'm already an examiner. The examiner should be examined by another chartered accountant. I don't know the reason. And now most of the sole proprietors were affected. And in course of time, many of them may not join as a small practitioners, independent practitioners. They all may join and syndicate themselves, go to the big fish, or I say big four. Okay, be that as it may be. And now we'll go to the taxation part of it, consortium and subcontracts. And some of your kind may get subcontract, how to deal with it. Consortium, basically, the department wants to tax it with AOP because they'll get larger tax. But if you go for AOP, certain benefits would be lost to the SSC public at large. So consortium people initially they face a difficulty. Department tried to treat them as AOP, and benefit that could be lost. I'm telling you. Okay. Now large contract with Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, like such a big people, they called many contractors consortium they gave. And these people, suppose Larsen & Toubro got the contract, doing large project. They never had the entire infrastructure. So they used to give subcontract. Because if they do everything, the cost will be very high. Unless and until they subcontract it, the cost cannot be brought down. Suppose their salary per person is 2 lakhs per month. Suppose they contracted, the labor cost can be brought down to around 60 to 70%. Because in the other place where the subcontract, engineers are working for 25,000, 50,000 per month. Where subcontracted, my cost of rendering the service is coming down. So we should be very careful in consortium contract. In India, government of the like Delhi Metro, this is a national health. Just for example, I'm using it. Issue tenders for EPC contracts in public domain, ensuring transparency in the bidding process. Once a consortium wins the bid, they create a consortium agreement that outlines each member's roles, responsibilities, and terms of performance. The main contractor oversees the project, ensuring that it gets completed on time and within budget. While consortium members share obligations, that means they are sharing the activities of the business. One consortium will be filing the tender and getting the tender one in their favor. Okay, this approach enables effective collaboration, combining resources and expertise to deliver successful projects. The other side department, consortium treated as an association of persons for taxation purpose. The term AOP is not defined under the Income Tax Act. It is generally construed as a group of persons who come together for achieving a common objective. Members of the AOP can be natural or artificial persons. Under the Act, an OOP is taxed as a separate unit, independent from its members, on net income. The concept of AOP is a subject matter of litigation in India. Tax authorities in many cases have taken a position that the consortium formed under the EPC contract constitutes an EOP, as the member jointly execute the work. Therefore, income of consortium is taxable at rates applicable to AOP. You know the disadvantages. I need not emphasize the taxation of AOP. Foreign tax credit is not lost. In all consortium contracts, you cannot use the goods only made in India. we may have to import various goods outside or outbound India, because the boundaries should be forgotten if you want to implement larger contracts. The knowledge is nobody's property. The free movement of technology, idea, free movement of natural persons is common. When peace dissolves, people get decentralized, nationalized, and peace is at the highest level. People move from place to place with more infrastructure to move from place to place. Okay, with this, with the peace progresses, people can move from country to country, which you will find globalization. If the peace dissolves, you find nationalization. I hope you know about nationalization and globalization. There are three phases. I mean to say a person can move within freely within Andhra Pradesh is one phase. A person who can move freely within India is another phase. The third phase is global citizen who can move in every part of India, in part of the global village. Three phases, their economies are different. And you know what is the dollar differences, everything. Our 1 rupee is equal to $13 in the year 1913. You know what is happening today? Be that as it may be, we will go what is happening. The tax paid in India in respect of the share of a foreign number is not available as a foreign tax credit outside India, because AOB there is no special recognition as per law. When a consortium is treated as an OP, the income earned by the consortium is taxed as a single entity, and the foreign member share of income may also be subject to tax in India. However, the taxes paid in India by the foreign member may not be available as foreign tax credit outside India, resulting in double taxation. Is a problem if they tax it as AOP. The next part, treaty benefit, double taxation treaties. Treaty benefit is not available in respect of the share of the foreign member. The foreign member of the consortium is resident in a country with which India has a tax treaty. The foreign member may be eligible for a lower tax rate or other tax benefits under the treaty. However, if the consortium is treated as an AOP, the treaty benefits may not be available to the foreign member on their share of income earned by the consortium. Okay, deductibility of expenses is again problem. Reduction for the amount paid to the consortium member may be disallowed in the hands of the AOP, since AOP is not a legal entity that can hire employees. Instead, the work is subcontracted among the members. As per Section 40B of the Act, amount paid to a consortium member is considered remuneration, and the deduction for such payment is disallowed, resulting in a higher taxability for the AOP. Losses, if any, of the consortium AOP may not be set off against the income of member or vice versa. Then what is the way out to get out of the problem of being treated as AOP? That means if you work in local firms, you may not need it. Even you work and serving a subcontractor, you know the link. Then can you serve your client better? Parameters to be kept in mind to avoid AOP possession. Based on various judicial precedents, Railway Circular number 7 2016 issued by CBDT, consortium should keep the following parameters in mind at the time of executing consortium agreement in order to avoid treatment of as AOP. So, AOP should not have any work to do. Roles and responsibilities of the members has been clearly demarcated. No common resources. No sharing of men and material between the consortium member. Should take care of this. No joint and several liability. Member is liable for its own scope of work. Consortium should not be made liable for it. The members should be made liable for the scope of the work. In case contract documents require joint and several liabilities, then in the consortium agreement should be mentioned that in case of penalty or additional cost is borne by any member of the default done by the other member, then the same needs to be indemnified. That means consortium agreement, you should specifically mention the member who had undertaken the work. We should take the responsibility. The engagement partner should take the responsibility, but not the reviewing partner. Consortium people may review it, but engagement stakeholder should take the responsibility of either penalty or additional cost. Okay, the entire firm should not be made liable in case of our services as a multinational serving firm. No common management. The control and management of the consortium is not unified. There should not be, consortium as such should not be managed. the units within that. I am again using the consortium of auditing firms. They may bid and they are participating in tender, get an agreement. Okay. But they distribute their services all over them. There are today many multinational companies for which they call for tenders. Earlier, calling tenders was prohibited. No tenders were being accepted. We had to go for a tender. Big four are going for a tender, they could make deposit. But we are unable to, small firms are unable to participate in tenders, pay deposits, and compete with them. So obviously, they are forming as a consortium. And they are passing on dividing the work country to country. The consortium will not take any responsibility. Okay? I'm not only talking about the industry, I'm also talking about the multinational audit firms also, big four also. Because oligarchy is ruling. Even oligarchs are influencing, oligarch chartered accountant firms are influencing even Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. ICI is a subsidiary of oligarch multinational audit firms today, whether you accept it or not. This is my opinion. For that reason only, there is no sole proprietor individual firm. That means about 70% of the audit firms who are sole proprietors gone out of the bank audits and also the C&AU audit purview. Gone. Am I right? Yes. That means oligarchs are dominated and they are ruling. That means, again, I'm telling you, this oligarch multinational audit firm serve for oligarch, Goldman Sachs and their cartel. And Goldman Sachs and their cartel is ruling not only owner of India, owner of the global village at large, and that position, now we are calling as the Goldman Sachs cartel, and that position wanted to be replaced by Blackstone. Blackstone already had captured even Enado Entertainment, and it is a part of the global village, part of the global property of the Goldman, cartel. Okay, be that as it may be, I know how it had happened. You can just understand how they are dividing India through media cartels and gaining advantage, which was being done earlier, now also being repeated, and very few people could understand. Okay, no common management. Okay, this no sharing of profit. That means AOP, there should not be any profit sharing within AOP. Each member and profits incurred losses based on the performance of the contract, falling strictly within its scope of work. However, consortium members may share the contract price at a gross level only to facilitate convenience in billing. Again, I am using the word. All consortium are plurilateral contracts. Now you are supposed to know what is plurilateral contract. Multilateral contract, plurilateral contract, bilateral, trilateral, bilateral. Okay. Plurilateral contract means where then more than three, maybe consortium member, maybe 10 persons may be there in the contract, that is called plurilateral. Suppose there is a particular association. Suppose you go to the World Trade Organization. If the particular most favored nation treatment is applicable to all countries, it is called most favored nation treatment, and it is called multilateral agreement. If it is applicable only to the few countries, suppose out of 145 countries or 150 countries members of the WTO, if it is applicable only to the 50 members of the WTO or the countries, then it is called plurilateral contract. Now all consortium are plurilateral contracts. Okay, in the plurilateral contracts, there should not be sharing of profit. No assignment of work between the member is not allowed in the consortium agreement. Okay, relationship with members, again, plurilateral contract members, no profit sharing. It should be clearly defined in the consortium agreement that the consortium should not be construed to create a corporation, association, person, or other taxable entity, any partnership, agency, or trust relationship among the members, or any continuing relationship or commitment among the members. Okay, now I spoke not only about the multinational audit firms, multinational companies, how oligarchy is ruling or prevailing in global village. I am mentioning how the taxation laws should be made applicable to the global village at large. So when I say residency, A particular person can be resident of a particular country. It is an international law. Whether it is adopted in a country. If I reside in a particular country more than 182 days, by default, a resident of that country. But what means in a year, you have got 365 days. Internationally, the word residency is defined. That is adopted in all countries. There is one organization called Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It's called OECD. Even model agreements for double taxation award agreements, there are two agreements were there. One with the big boss, considering as a unipolar, your America, USA, now it is multipolar. When it become multipolar, OECD model agreements are used for double taxation avoidance agreements. There are some 30 articles around, which are commonly used for double taxation avoidance agreements. Okay. Safeguard to be kept in consortium agreement should contain activity breakdown where role and responsibilities are mapped to each member. Documentation should be maintained by each member to substantiate their actual conduct. Each consortium member should appoint its respective project manager, and such manager shall be responsible for such member's scope of work. Management team can be formed under the main contract, however, only for the purpose of coordination among the members. Subcontractors. Again, I'm using the word multinational audit firms. What I am talking about is applicable to multinational audit firms also. They also subcontract their work when they participate in tenders and make. Okay, only big fours are participating in tenders and they claim that they have all the facilities, and big four only draft the tender documents mostly that facilitate them to participate in the tenders. And small firms, medium audit firms cannot participate, and even their empanelment is being now dishonored for small audit firms. Hope you understand the influence of the oligarch audit firms, oligarchs at large, on India and also countries outbound to India. Okay, my words may be different, may be unique, applicable to India and beyond India, because most of the works involving even the many parts that you import from outside India. Okay, subcontractors can be appointed by members individually for their work. In case one member subcontracts to work to another member, back-to-back agreement should be executed, clearly defining responsibilities of each member. A revenue share or participation percentage of each member should be clearly specified, supported with the documentation. Each member to bear all the costs, risks and liability incurred by it, arising out of its obligations. That means consortium should not have a single rupee as profit. Consortium agreement should specifically document that notwithstanding the consortium members' liability to customer, the members among us themselves shall remain responsible and liable for the performance and completion of the respective scope of the work. Insurance should be taken by members for the respective scope of work. However, if separate insurance is not permitted, insurance can be taken by one member for practical purpose. However, this requirement should be substantiated by documentation. That was the concept of OP is critical in EOPC contract when members operate jointly for execution of work to ensure that the consortium agreement is structured in line with relevant tax laws and judicial precedent, thereby minimizing the tax liability of the consortium. That means in the due course of time, even the chartered accountant should become a subcontractor to the large oligarch audit firms, without which survival is difficult. I suggest individual chartered accountants and even most of the SME firms to become a subcontractor to the large firms. Then only there is survival with a cost plus profits. Because in the cost plus profit, they are getting 100 rupees, they don't mind giving you 25 rupees. All multinational companies will manage the legislature and also the authorities at large, and like selling coffee for 500 rupees. In a star hotel, you will get 500 rupees. That way, but small people are still surviving very small, but not SMEs. Okay, and with this, I have ended the consortium part of it, subcontracting, oligarchs, and how you SMEs should get it by subcontracting from the oligarchs. Shall I go ahead in a recent judgment, Delhi bench? If you have any doubts, I will answer right now and go ahead. Any doubts, you can raise. Can I proceed now? In the recent decision, the Delhi bench of income tax appellate had faced with the question whether the payments made to a Swiss resident for services rendered under separate EPC contract were taxable in India. At this point of time, I have to tell you one important case, Isakawajima Harima case, in where an Indian company had transported some goods with an agreement stating that the goods will be delivered on a ship. It is neither India nor Japan. So when it is neither India nor Japan, the concept of destination is considered taxable at once. So in many cases, it was not charged. That means the delivery had taken place on a ship. Because your goods should move from a ship. So obviously, all your taxes paid got back, and Japan cannot tax it because by destiny, because it had not got to the Japan. The destination principle is an international concept, and that should be followed all the countries. And not only within India, even beyond India, destination-based taxation is the ruling. That means the person who is consuming will be paying the taxes. So that the taxes paid by the consumer should belong to the place in which he was resident. Suppose one product, after all assembling everything goes to America, the taxation, entire taxation paid incidental to the product should go to the hands of the American government and they should be able to spend it. That means it is paid by the consumer. Hope you understand. Suppose you are importing from Europe, the entire product is coming to India. We are consuming it. All taxes incidental paid to the product should be used by the Andhra Pradesh government. Hope now you understand the inherent logic of destiny principle. With that destiny principle again being manipulated by various people, for lower taxation, people they want to deliver, tax factory, and other thing. This gentleman wanted to deliver some product to the, I think, JSP Steels or something. This is the case. The Delhi bench, they followed Delhi bench case, in India's case, and he sold some design and engineering in three parts. One is design and engineering, and the other is supply of plant and machinery, and third part is installation of the entire machinery in India. What this fellow had done is, he recorded the delivery had taken place in Switzerland. Okay, and he completed the contract within 6 months in India. So since the 6 months did not complete, there was no personal, enterprise or establishment in India. So he did not submit any income because for doing transacting in India, he need a PAN and the GST took it and filed a nil return. Department called him, you have to pay taxes, and they started, you got a business profit from plant and machinery, and you got it. Other things are taxable in India. Then the matter had gone to the, once initially to people, to the Commission of Appeal, that had gone to the Delhi bench. Okay, now you understood the importance of the taxation angle under the Income Tax Act. That means some subcontractor or a small contractor. There is no consortium here, but EPC is there, engineering, procurement, and construction is there. So, in a recent decision, taxpayer was a company which was a resident of Switzerland and was engaged in the engineering business. It had entered into 3 separate contracts, I already told you, each executed on the same date with its client who was a resident of India. Client is resident of India. Again, most of them I copied from some sites or other. Nishita Desai property I am importing here and delivering. Nishish Desai were international consultants, and I extracted this from them, their opinion. Despite I endorsed the essence in it, so only I communicated. In a study material, since I am not paying you copyright tax, I can use all the material for education purposes. I am using it. There is no bar for me to use it. Most of them I copied. Okay. Despite I know the essence of it. Some of them I am expressing my opinion. Okay, because I know the concept, I could extemporally tell you. Instantaneously I can tell you. Okay, 3 contracts. I already mentioned in this type of contracts in my beginning speech. and now we're continuing the same. How this is handled under the Income Tax Act as a subcontractor or as independent EPC contractor. Okay. First two, one is supply of plant and equipment, supply of drawings and designs in relation to the plant in accordance with the client's specifications and subject to the client's approval. See, capacities may be different. It's not standardized. Suppose you want to install a lift, there could be standardized lifts and not standardized lifts, specific to the needs of the. Now this is a case where client suggested wanted a particular his own engineers also wanted separate designs. The first, okay, and the third, and subject to the client's approval. The third contract required the taxpayer to depute his technical personnel to supervise the erection and commissioning of the equipment supplied under the first contract in India. The following issues arose from the tribunal's consideration. But I'm giving 2 hours. I can tell in 2 minutes and also in 2 hours. I have already completed the essence of this encyclopedic essence in 2 minutes, but I'm continuing the various incidents that have occurred in India and beyond India. The thumb rule is in all EPC contracts separate, goods and labor or services separately. My subject is over, discussion is over, but incidents where there is misuse or the tug of war between the taxpayer and tax collector, I am highlighting, that are occurring by advance rulings and also various judgments that are occurring. Okay. The tug of war, I am discussing now. By thumb rule, the subject is complete in 2 minutes. That means that basically you have to divide all EPC contracts or whatever works contracts separately as goods and services separately. That is advantageous to the some benefit or other could be credited to the contractor and also to the recipient. The following issues arose for the tribunal's consideration. First, whether the consideration of supply of plant and equipment could be characterized as fees for technical services. The plant and machinery should be treated as technical services. Secondly, whether the consideration of supply of drawings and designs to be characterized as royalty or fees for technical services. Thirdly, whether the consideration for the supervision of the erection of the equipment be characterized as fees for technical services, and whether they are attributable to a permanent establishment of India. Again, 3, whether there exists permanent establishment. The 4 queries of the Delhi bench had answered it. How these are contradicting the decision, judgment in Delhi High Court and also Karnataka High Court. I am highlighting it. Which matter did not go to the Supreme Court, and the controversy will continue. Okay. Following the decision of the High Court in the case of Linde, AG something, I think is a German company. The tribunal, I think it may be Switzerland company or German company, I don't remember. The tribunal held that the constitution of supplies of plant and equipment could not be characterized as fees for technical services. And they stated these technical services are incidental to the plant and machinery. They should form integral part of the plant and machinery. That the business profits should be taxed only in Switzerland, but not in India. Because the gentleman had taken delivery only in Switzerland. If the delivery is taken in India, then the taxable revenues come to India. And the 2 countries, member business community will take advantage of the taxes that were laid in Switzerland and taxes levied in India. And again, the revenue collector should go to Switzerland or India. Sharing of the public exchequer revenues in the paid by the public at large in the form of taxes. Okay. Now, whether the taxes should go to Switzerland or to India. Again, I'm using the destiny basis principle. By destiny, plant and machinery were supplied in Switzerland, but not installed. Plant and machinery was brought by your clients. So the sale was completed. Bought in Switzerland, sold in Switzerland. So the entire transaction out of India, so that it cannot be taxed by the India by jurisdiction. If it is bought in Switzerland and the delivery are taken by destination to India, then it is taxable in India's business profits in India. I am talking about the international principle. If you ask me to have section 9, I can't go deep. I don't want to go deep into the section 9 of the Income Tax Act. I land on the double taxation avoidance agreement, but I am only communicating the essence of the subject. So some people say this engineering service is part of the plant and machinery, delivered in India, delivered in Switzerland. That is a moot point. That means in every case, you should understand the facts of the case, in the law that was prevalent in the both countries, which is beneficial, and what is the cost reduction. Sometimes Switzerland people might go for a collaboration for establishment of their factory in India. They also plan to reduce their cost. Make in India. That means they gain control once you say make in India. Now, I am not only talking about Indian taxation, the global tax issues are talking. How the international issues, international treaties are brought within the sovereignty of India by way of sections. Because the constitution, we have constitution called as a republic. Despite we are the wealth of the UK. Again, there is one called Commonwealth Real. In Commonwealth Republic, we have constitution. We are the property and dominion of UK. Samantarashtra. Having our own constitution, our own president. We have already, we are still in the culture of English. We are wearing our own trousers, English style. We are, administrative language is English. And our BJP wanted to incorporate Sanskrit, they failed. And they were using for title, they were using Indian words, Bharat, Saksha, some words. But if we go inside it, the script is English. So it is very difficult to root out the administrative language of English. And again, I'm telling you, English is a child of Sanskrit. When Urdu is a Sanskrit of, are all children of Sanskrit. Even Urdu, in Gatotkaca, the son of Bhima, was a resident of Indonesia. Whether you know it or not, I do not know. And Gatotkaca was well worshipped in Indonesia. Okay? Be that as it may be, if I go on telling that, this subject gets diverted. Okay? We will leave that because I am good at Quran also. If I say namaz, it is imported from Sanskrit. Yes, namaz is a Sanskrit word. Na matlab no. Amaha matlab badalu, difficulties, hardships. I should not get hardships from the atma of other person. Aja matlab is Lord, as per Sanskrit, namaz. Is it imported from Sanskrit? And the person who was worshipped in, he was none other than Lord in Saligram. And the continuity of water is there for 24 hours, Jam Kapapani, it's Patala Ganga. With that as it may be. No more queries, out of syllabus. The answer to the question, how to characterize the payments? Supply of drawings and engineering. These drawings, ultimately, this bench had held it. In the commission appeal stated that the plant and machinery delivered in assessing officer tax all the business profits and stating that you pay tax. But commission appeals told that plant and machinery was delivered in Switzerland. No, business profits are outside India, it exempted. And that gone to the Delhi bench, they said these engineering services are forming part of the plant and machinery. They said you need not pay any business profits for this because this, when it forms part of the plant and machinery, there was business profits that were outside India, that is in Switzerland. The two parts, no tax. The small part installation, he said no PG. Whether there exists PE or not, this taxable in India. But that was a minor portion, and this person ignored it. The matter did not go further. That means following the Delhi High Court decision. And while so, G. Sarangan had appeared in the Karnataka High Court case, and he failed to impress upon the Karnataka High Court, and they were separated. Okay. They are telling engineering services, they will tax it in India, received in India. Okay. Sarangan failed in Karnataka High Court, and this Nishit Desai made an analysis. He is stating that it is incorrect. Okay. Detailed analysis by Nishit Desai. It's not my detailed analysis. It is a detailed analysis of Nishit Desai, some person in Nishit Desai. Okay, it is not entirely clear from the decision whether the plant and equipment were bespoken to the client's requirements. It is also unclear from the decision whether the bespoke nature. How many of you know about national treatment and most favored nation treatment? I do not know. But most favored nation treatment is once I give some concession to a particular country, that concession should be customs rate should be applicable to all countries in the world. That is called most favored nation treatment. National treatment, once a foreigner comes to India, should be taxed on par with the resident or citizen of India. Okay, be that as it may be, they will be going for detailed analysis made by Nishit Desa and so. Okay. It is not entirely clear from the decision whether plant or equipment were bespoken to client's requirements. When it is client requirements, that means he is buying services delivered in India, because it was used for the plant and machinery that could be used only in India. It is also unclear from the decision whether the bespoke nature of the engineering service might have altered the character of the transaction from being one of a simple supply of plant and machinery to one of the provision for technical services. It seems plausible that the plant and equipment were ordered from a catalog of off-the-shelf products sold by the taxpayer. Lips will be have a catalog. If I buy from the catalog, where is the question of works contract? I leave it to the decision, because some large machinery suppliers will have a catalog. From the catalog they buy, but still they try to say it's the business profits. In such instance, it appears to be reasonable to conclude that the first in contract was simply for the sale of goods and not for rendering engineering service. He did concur with the Delhi High Court decision, but was against the Karnataka High Court decision. However, those facts would seem very different from the ones which taxpayer renders engineering services of planning, designing, operating plants and equipment, which are bespoke to the client specification. It would appear in such an instance that the payment is not for the manufactured article, but rather for manufacturing service. Whether service is by the shelf material already ready-made machinery, or because they can design their own way. Okay. If you say it is the client design and you taken as the client's design, then you are taxable in India. If it says the design made by the partner forming part of the machinery is form part of the machinery, it is taxable only in that country, but not in India. Okay, this part he was explaining, and I will not go. I have added both the Delhi High Court judgment and Karnataka High Court judgment, and you can see the index material is 715 pages I made for you. Okay, by this analysis, this part of my article is ending. Okay, if you have way forward, the care and caution are necessary while drafting EPC contract to ensure optimization of profits and tax, thereby reducing controversies as much as possible, requiring and understanding the loss inbound and outbound to India. Sources: Taxman articles, Tax Sutra articles with reference to Nishit Desai website. I have got. Okay, I included some advanced ruling judgments duly indexed mentioned here now. I have added total material is about 715 pages. Shall we go to the supplementary notes I made it, so that you will have an understanding of the supplementary notes and why I made supplementary notes also. Even that was also extract copied from other sites. Okay, by judgment by judgment I will write it. Maharashtra Appellate Authority for advance ruling for goods and services. I told you they have taxed it at 18%, not giving. And I will show you the table also. They condone the delay. That is not necessary. Brief facts of the case I already explained you. Okay. Grounds of appeal. You now here see solar power generating system. They added all the labor that was insulation forming part of the solar panels, everything. And they said that I am applicable 5%, but Maharashtra Appellate Authority did not give consideration, and they told, as per the above concession, 5% has been provided to the following when covered, but ultimately the advanced ruling, if you read it, wide ambit of the term solar power generating system. I think the essence of this circular I already communicated. I need not repeat again. If you read it, the facts, you'll have a better fathom or deciphering of the subject. Okay. Then all the judgments of history of the judgments you will find in this judgment. Okay. concept and that means the entire history of 46 constitutional amendment became integral part of GST. That is what it today. Now, this circular, I hope you have understood it and you know how to be exercise care and caution while documenting. And their Australian taxation also were discussed. In terms of goods and services tax ruling issued under Australia, composite supply means a supply that contains a dominant part and includes something that is integral and incidental to that part. So again, I discussed this part. If you got a ready-made version is there, they may divide it, stating whether the design is as per the clients or as per the supplier. Okay. This federal court judgments. Again, GST is mostly service tax are imported from European countries and also mostly European countries. European Union, VAT that was imported, and you have seen that VAT in costing, but it was not tested very well. Supply of SPGS. SPGS matlab solar power generating system. Okay. Structures were mentioned in my article. And definitions are given in supplementary notes. I am scrolling further. And at last, you will see the opinion. Okay. I will see the index so that I can jump fast. Now, this is 80th page. You will find there they are not of 80th page. Okay. Now, in 80th page, you will find the decision. The applicant has submitted the second one. Government is unable to issue notification prescribing rate for goods services or both. In the present case, government has taxed solar products at 5%. Devices and parts, solar power generating system, photovoltaic cells at 5%. So whether you see whether the above description of notification and what they are this. Okay. The above description in the notification shows the description of goods as following: renewable energy devices and parts of their manufacture. The term devices is very important here. A device means an object. The Oxford defines device as an object of a piece of equipment that has been designed to do a particular job. Solar power generating system is entry used in the same sense as a device. Also, we have decided the instant case and the facts and terms of the case. After going through the entire contract or agreement, we have come to the conclusion that the agreement leads to the erection of a solar power generating system, which is immovable property. Therefore, merely because the schedule entry is provided for the same does not mean that the product will be classified in the same. That means that site type in the first query, the answer that is not form part of the, that means there should be an article, like should be movable, not fixed to the, okay. But if the transaction treated as composite supply, whether the principal supply in such can be said to be solar power generating system, which is taxable at 5% GST. We have treated the transaction as composite supply, and the works contract, we treated it, and the works contract following under section so and so, treats works contract as supply of services. Okay. What did they say? It is supply of services. In view thereof, there arises no occasion to go into the issue of principal supply. Okay. Whether the benefit of concerned of solar power generation system, part thereof would also be available to subcontractors. What did they say? We hold that we will not deal with the question in the present proceedings. The ARJ has held that no details were brought before them, and therefore, in the absence of documents, they have expressed their inability to deal with the question. As of no fresh documents were produced before us, and also there being no original ruling of the ARJ, we hold that we will not deal with the question in the present case. Okay, judgment quoted by the appellant. They are put it in the dustbin by the advanced ruling authorities. Okay, order. was passed, whether supply turnkey engineering, procurement, and construction contracts for construction of solar power plant wherein both goods and services are supplied can be a compulsory supply in terms of section 230 of the appellant poses before us to decide whether engineering contract falls within the definition of compulsory supply as found in the GST Act. The question is answered in the positive. Whether called as works contract is a different issue. If it's a contract in the compulsory supply, the said compulsory supply falls within the definition of works contract. So should understand the compulsory supply, works contract, and the mixed supply. Then works contract. Yes, whether the principal supply in such case can be said to be a solar power generation system, which is taxable at 5%. We have treated the transaction as a compulsory supply. And the works contract falling within the section of 2(119) of the CGST Act and para 6 of the schedule, second schedule, to be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. Treats works contract as supply of services. Now, by treating supply of services, you can understand what is the inherent mindset of the advanced ruling authorities. So in view thereof, there are, as I said, no. To go into the issue of principal supply, we proceed to the third question. Whether the benefit of concession rate is applicable, not applicable. I don't, now you, I hope you did like your discussion. The essence of this circular was already taught to you. I need not repeat it again. If you have any question on this circular, you write, because it was already circulated. Can I go ahead to the next circular? Rajasthan Authority for Regulation Frazo, India Private Limited. Again, is similar. Okay. Pacific and both, judgment liability repair. Again, solar power generation system, similar order. Okay. You read it at the end of the paragraph. Generate is 5% and not 18% is the contest and request by the consumer or assessing SSC, but that was discarded to be considered by the advanced ruling authority or appellate advanced ruling authority. Should I go? I think I need not give an explanation on this matter. Okay. I will go to the last 97. Okay. At the top, I'm going to go to the judgment because I have got an index. Going back to the index in the very top job, I got a hard copy. From this hard copy, I'm catching the index. I'm going to the last page of this. How they held it. Okay. All judgment they have read it, they said. Okay. And what the order they had given, you see. Based on scope of work to undertake along with provision of law, it is observed that the installation of solar power generation as a permanent location, as it meant onward sale of power to the consumer. Contract between EPC contract and the power counterparties entered into on the premise that the plant would continue to be situated in the place of the construction. But plant would therefore be inherent element of permanency. The output of the project, electricity would be available to the identifiable segment of consumer. Thus, this output supply could involve an element permanency for which it would not be possible and prudent to shift case from time to time or locate the plant elsewhere at frequent intervals. The solar generating power cannot be shifted to any other place without dismantling the same. Further, that means it's not movable, so I can't treat it as a good. So it's a works contract, right? Further, it is tailor-made system for technical specifications which cannot be. How the advanced ruling authority explaining the scenario to their favor I'm talking. Because in the earlier ruling, the way they passed the order was different. The way the order this person is advanced ruling passing is different. Ultimately concluding that the solar power generating system is a works contract. Solar generating system cannot be shifted to any other place without dismantling the same. Further, it is a tailor-made system as per the technical specifications which cannot be sold as it is to the other person. The installation of solar power generating system essentially includes civil work, such as development of the site, structural foundation, building, cable trenches, civil work. So he is mentioned based on the subjection. Again, ultimately he said solar ruling. What was the ruling? The way they explained might be different. In the earlier advanced ruling and this ruling. Ultimately, what did they have? Stating is taxable at 18%, not at the 5%. On paper, 5% concession was given for solar power rating system. When I say system, can't that be fixed to the land? Mobile property.com and fix it. The services should be taxed at 18%, but not the entire procured material. A system we're going to carry. Somewhere I have to fix it. Okay, now we'll go to the other ruling. That is regarding Giriraj. He had gone to even to the Tamil Nadu also. Karnataka. Okay. There is Karnataka, Authority of Advanced Rulings in Karnataka, goods and service tax in College, Bangalore. This Giriraj structure we have seen. Again, this fellow wanted 5%. He failed to get 5% here also, but maybe with a different explanation. I hope I can skip. Whether turnkey. Again, the same queries. Whether 5% or 18%. And he gave lots of explanation, Giriraj. Okay. Now we'll go to the end of the conclusion. At the end page is at 123 around. Okay. Don't think that I am omitting it. But the basic discussion is again the various judgments that were held in from since the year 1982. All this related to their convenience of the SSE, and this fellows would have made it convenience to their reasoning and telling it. Question number 1. Whether supply of turnkey engineering procurement by contract for construction of solar power plant wherein both goods and services supply can be construed as to composite supply. Composite supply is defined. You just see what they have done it. I am scrolling. I will see what the order was passed. But fortunately, I think this fellow gave some 70% rebate. Ruling. Question number 1. The major component PV module said to have been constituting 70% of the whole project cannot be considered to be supplied by the applicant consequent upon high C sale of the said product, hence it cannot be considered to be a principal supply of the project, and thereby cannot be a composite supply. The question does not remain relevant on account answer 1. The supply made by subcontract needs to be viewed as an individual supply, and thereby the appropriate rate of GST has to be applied depending upon the specific nature of supply. Okay. Here, the third question, whether the concession rate of 5% to solar project part that is also available to the subcontractor. The subcontractor is an individual supplier. The rate of GST applicable depends on the type of supply, and no concession rate of GST is provided to subcontractor on the basis of main contractor, and the supply made by subcontractor need to be viewed as an individual supply, and thereby appropriate of GST has to be applied. So, again, I can now go to the other case. This is a Tata project state, not related to the power points, but a general contract. They have constructed some plant for ISRO. Okay. But mostly these large companies will keep margins much higher than the GST rates. Suppose margin is 18%. Suppose small entrepreneur want to start a business buying 1 lakh. All his earnings to pay the margin will go to the GST account. All small scale industries should have worked for the big people. Okay. That way, people, small scale businesses become more intelligent and they're joining multinational companies or multinational audit firms. Okay. So with this, again, whether supply of engineering, again, it was held 18%. Is a general contract, but not a PowerPoint contract, because various parts that forming part of the ISRO contract will be less than 18%. That facility was not given. They said you have to pay, and we will go to the end of this Tamil Nadu Advanced Modeling Tata Projects 137. I gave large material, but this book was made me available from the branch. Okay. Okay, they have printed and made the book. The bindings, huh? This book was made available by the branch. The binding, I paid the cost. He gave it. They gave a spiral binding. I removed the spiral and got it the bound. Okay. So the spiral was removed and paid for 100 rupees. Otherwise, the entire cost of making the book was made. Is the property of the branch, and the same would be made available at the branch. And supplementary notes, I will made it separate. You can add them also. Now again, we'll go to the 137. What is the ruling you will see? Okay, materials, they have so many materials were USD, you have seen, right? Amount in rupees, crores, in foreign currency in rupees. Okay. What ultimately they had held, we'll read it, okay? Per your composite supply, they accept it. They don't deny. Okay? The ruling. You see what the ruling is. And in the material, you will find how the SSC pleaded, how the revenue authorities responded. Okay. The question raised by the applicant are answered as under. The supply as specified in the contract between the applicant and the show integrated some facility, both goods as a composite supply in terms of section 230, they agreed with composite supply. The next part is this supply and works contract in terms of 2(119) of CGST and TNGST Act, and hence notification dated so and so corresponding to GST dated is not applicable. The concession is not applicable. The entire tax rate applicable to the supply, works contract, and supply of services. Hope I have completed this circular also. The next part, Supreme Court of India. In this Kone elevator, our Harish Salve had argued this case. Again, regarding lift. In that time, the services were separated. When there was no GST, and it is a large case, it is 219 pages. I leave it to the members to read on their own. I will not go deep into it, because you'll find the essence of the works contract, how they divide. Ultimately, the essence you will find it, dividing a works contract into supply of materials. Already I completed the subject within 2 minutes, but continuing because I was to spend 2 hours time and spending. Okay. And this essence I already communicated in various other CPE meetings. So most of them have not come because they know the essence of the works contract, EPC contracts. Okay. This Supreme Court decision also I'm skipping for you to read on your own. Actually, it is 715 pages only. The 3 pages as index. One is the cover page and 2 pages is an index. 718 pages. For now, this is one circular. stating how the rates applicable. You just scan it in the amendment circular, giving some clarification on how the works contractor power units should be treated. It was mentioned. Okay, you make your own reading of this circular. Now, High Court of the Delhi, Sujit Ghosh and other people, and this was authored by I think this is a judgment given by Yashwant Sinha. You know about Yashwant Sinha, right? Big people, Arvind Datar and big people also participated in this petition. Just to see how many big people are involved in this case. Judgment Yashwant Verma. You hope you know how these big people paid this Yashwant Verma to get the decision in their favor. Superseding when that already I told regarding manufacture and other operations in warehouse regulations. That means, hope you understand Yashwant, you know about Yashwant Verma. In his house, 2 courts were burnt. And you can see the number of big attorneys having appeared for this company. You read it, okay? Then you can understand how things are happening in judiciary. This is a great, best judgment that you can understand about judges. Okay? Superseding the decision of the government. Because there is a conflict between judiciary, executive, and legislature. So also, by the media conflicting among themselves, favoring you. I leave this judgment, okay? Because I don't want to enter into any controversy on this matter. Okay? And they have, department had gone for the amendment. Again, the matter had gone to Supreme Court of India, taken on the diary. And the diary number also I have mentioned already. So both I skip and go to the Linde, the judgment of the Linde, okay? Linde judgment is on 541 page. So this judgment also I'm skipping because you read on your own how Yashwant Verma handled the cases of big people. You can understand. Because I read many judgments. If you bring all the judgments, it will be a large library. Since childhood, I was reading many judgments, many journals, large journals, which my father used to get it. Incidentally, I was a helper when I was 7 years old. When I became 13 years old, I was his typist, typing at his dictation when I was in 7th class. And later, at the 19th year, I completed one group wherein there was engineering subjects, mathematics and statistics and accountancy. Incidentally, I passed when I was in 19th year. While so, some more than dozen chartered accountants failed in that particular group. Since the 19th year, most of the chartered accountants recognized me on par with them. So many chartered accountants of that time became incidentally contemporaries who were older to me by more than 10 years. Even more than 35 years were married, having children. So to tell you one example, Sai Suresh was a bench my exam mate while I was writing my group. And I passed it and he could not complete. Later, he left that course, ICW. but he completed ICCS and also chartered accountants. But if you ask anything in income tax, he can tell you within 2 minutes, but it'll take 2 days. That means he reads every journal with page and number everything. That was his memory power. He focused his attention in the taxation, in particular income tax. You ask about other GST, other things, he said he will disclaim it openly. He says, I don't know. But if you ask anything on taxation, spontaneously within 2 minutes you can tell. But I may take 2 days. That was his knowledge, and mostly on taxation issues and also legal matters. Okay, now Acme I will leave. I will go to the Linde 541. But I will be concluding it by 8 because the matter was delayed by around 1 hour. Before 8 I will complete it. It is already over. It may take another 15 minutes. Now the Linde agreement. Linde AG is again German company. 541. In this case, this matter related to the income tax cases. Okay, where they stated that your engineering services form part of the plant and machinery, and that forms part of it, and not necessary. And he one emphasis that PE is not necessary to charge the installation charges that were made in India. And the other one is done by EEG. Another one is 65, that is Karnataka High Court judgment, wherein they said they are taxable in India. And I will go to the supplementary, where both the judgments I skip, okay? Because I already discussed the essence of these two judgments. I will not go. Now, supplementary notes. I have already said what is works contract, the transfer of property, goods involved in the execution. Section 1 is Central Goods Services Tax. And what the definition I already told, I have noted it down for my convenience. What is composite supply? Where goods are packed and transported with insurance, the supply of goods, packing materials, transport, insurance is the composite supply. And supply of goods is the principal supply. Whether they are accepting as a composite supply, but stating the works contract, inverting the definition of section 2, bracket 119. Okay. And again, mixed supply, which are different by themselves, not incidental to each other. Then they wanted to call it a mixed supply. I am leaving it, having single price. And this is section 17.5. I already told what is planned. The Supreme Court decision was in favor of the SSC, but the department had gone ahead setting that overruling this recently and stating that the wrongfully drafted as plant and machinery, plant or machinery, instead of drafting it as plant and machinery. Okay? And the plant and machinery, judicial interpretation plant in GST and distinction between plant and machinery and plant on machinery. The Supreme Court judgment in Chief Commissioner Safari Retreats, I did not remember to tell you Safari Retreats, has provided a significant interpretation of the term plant under the goods regime. The court examined the distinction between plant and machinery and plant or machinery as used in section 17.5 of the Central Goods and Services Tax 2017. This ruling has far-reaching implications for tax credit, eligibility for immovable properties used in businesses such as shopping malls. Okay, and then definition. I made 7 cases judicial judgments were quoted here. Andhra Pradesh plant includes buildings and structures essential for business operations. Suppose I have got a building, I am running renting services. This building should be treated as a plant. But the department had come forward stated I will use the plant and machinery, but not plant. The functionality test all gone, which I have read earlier. Power station. And this all tests, the functionality test associated, all this gone by the recent overruling and changing the definition of plant or machinery as plant and machinery. This part I am telling you why. Anekam shastram vedita bahuda veditavya. Shastra are infinite. Alpasta kalo bahavasta vignaha. But time is very short. We get so many obstacles. Why we need to catch the essence and like a hamsa separating milk and water. Okay, just an opinion. 75D gone. Understanding the change. They have amended. Shall we write it under? We will highlight the 17.5 deals with the blocked credit. It contains a list of goods and services of which input tax credit cannot be availed by the taxpayer. This class D states that the goods or services are both received by a taxable person for construction of movable property other than plant or machinery on his own account, including when such goods or services are both are used in the course of furtherance of business, is not allowed to be availed as ITC. It means that if plant or machine is constructed, then ITC is allowed. In October 24, the Honorable Supreme Court delivered a ruling in the case of Safari Trust Limited, in which input tax credit on construction expenses for buildings meant to be leased or renting was permitted. And now it was treated in the case law that expression plant or machinery cannot be given the same meaning as plant and machinery as defined in the explanation to section 17. The legislature has consciously used a distinct expression and it must be given a different meaning. The word plant in the expression plant or machinery should be interpreted based on the functionality test. That means whether the building is essential for carrying on the business activities of the registered person. Now, in the 56th constitutional meeting, it is proposed that the wording plant or machinery are to be replaced by the words plant and machinery retrospectively from 1st July 2017. Just understand how unfair the government is. The term plant and machinery as defined in the explanation section. For this chapter and chapter 6, the expression plant and machinery means apparatus. Hope I can understand the retrospective amendment made. That was unfair. This I already discussed about the absence of democracy in the Supreme Court and the High Courts of India, covering the Supreme Court number of judges Act 1956. There was majority till the year 1956. Later on, there was no majority in Supreme Court of India. That means there was absence of democracy. That is being contested now. Conflicts are going on. Hope democracy could be established even in Supreme Court of India. This judgment I already discussed. Now the second supplementary notes is written by V.S. Datte on his commentary on GST, which I already expressed to you, the hardship that are faced and background unconventional energy is gone. Now solar energy is being AR decisions about GST on works contract. I already discussed it. He said they were unfair. Okay. And installation of solar water pumping system works contract and taxable at 18%. He had made his own opinion, and his article is matching with my opinion, so I have reproduced it here. Entire article as such. They are all judgments stating that statutory bodies. Works contract means a contract. Again, we already discussed it. Composite services, they want to hold it as. Again, I had discussed the definition of the sale of goods under Article 366. That was the constitutional amendment in the year 1982. Okay. After that, all this history. Is deeming provision in GST valid? He says not valid. Despite that, public are following not capable of fighting with them. It is not very clear why the works contract has been defined as deemed supply service in GST law, contrary to the provision of Article 366, bracket 29 of the Constitution. It is indeed anybody's guess. Since the goods involved in works contract may fall under different tariff heads, this cannot be classified in a particular HSN code. That may be one of the reasons that it is defined as deemed service. Another possible reason is that definition of services is much wider than definition of the goods and hence it is easier to fit works contract in definition of services. Simple, convenience is harmful. The third reason possible is to bring clarity in provisions relating to place, supply, and time of supply. Rate of works contract, again 18%. They're holding that it is composite supply, but at the end they're telling composite supply, mixed supply already discussed. Works contract is composite supply. We are agreeing it, but not about the transfer of property involved in the goods. Suppose I use a consumable, there was no transfer of property. All items that were procured should be like your consumable. Suppose I use explosives. I use explosives in a contract, but the identity of the explosive is lost. Such items can be treated as service, but not entire metal where you can identify. What is identified should be taxed at the rates that were enunciated in the schedules. Absurd results if GST rate is determined treating it as supply service. Absurd means this person's opinion, even the same opinion, with a different, adjective in my own language. Okay? The 18% is unfair, right? That's what you want to answer. Interpretation which leads to absurd results should be avoided. If the opinion avoid whether avoided or not, we'll see how things will frame, how oligarchs will manage the government. Well, anyhow, oligarchs will make large margins. So they may not feel burdensome. It may be off the record political contributions also, or on record political contributions for them to, because they may get indirectly while doing some contracts. Suppose they pay 18%. The difference between 18 and 5%, 13%, they might get it in some other contracts. They might assure to pay 18%, these oligarchs will pay 18%, and the small entrepreneurs may not be able to pay that 18%. Okay, then they disappear from the business. Big fish will survive in the business because they can get contracts and they paying, because the oligarchs have got a proximity with the political ruling public, but while so medium and small enterprises will not have proximity with the business community. Deeming provision as a legal fiction should not lead to absurd results. Purpose rule of interpretation. Okay. Specific provision prevails over general provision. They want to ambiguity in favor of taxable person. That means there are various courts were held. Ambiguity should be avoided. And if there is ambiguity, the ruling should be made in favor of the SSC, but that was not being followed nowadays, which was followed earlier. Okay. Conclusion that value in case of work contract will be on the basis of principal supply. Again, I use the word, I need not weigh out. There is no doubt that issue is a litigation prone and would lead to different interpretations and different views. Though obviously decision of department will always be in favor of the revenue, final result is uncertain. In short, there are interesting times ahead in respect of work contract rates for advocates and tax practitioners and nightmares for taxable persons. Let us hope that GST Council will intervene and resolve the controversy. If GST Council does not come to rescue, what can be done? The only way is to divide and handle it. Okay? What I have expressed, the essence of my opinion was found in the supplementary notes too. Entire article I reproduced here. With this, I am ending my study on the, or I actually used over a treatise on the EPC contract, treatise matlab, giving all the facts on contractual side and everything. I had justification for the use of the word treatise. So I normally use the word treatise. With this, I end my discussion on today's matter and welcome for any questions, suggestions if you can give. I am ready to accept. If I went wrong in any part of my
separate checks, those 28% of that is very beneficial.
huh?
Separate register, ABC. 28% ఉన్నారు mostly.
See, the remote chances. See, solar power plant is it.
Okay.
See, you have to take care of the inverted structure is there. Then that is different. The chances of inverted duty structure is remote in works contract. If there is inverted structure, there are more. Nobody would have gone to the appeal. If the benefit of inverter structure was available to the client or the SSC, they had not gone for advanced ruling or contested in a court of law. Hope you understand now. With this, I end my logic, and the material can be submitted and be kept at the branch, and giving this part of the book and the material to the branch.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. ఇంత బుక్ నేను చదవాలంటే చాలా టైం పోతుంది కానీ మీరు చాలా షార్ట్గా నేను మిగిలేదు వేరే వర్క్లో ఉన్నాను కానీ ఐ కెన్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ముగ్గురు మన ఎవరు ఉన్నా కూడా వాళ్ళ ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్తో విన్నారు మెయిన్ ఇంకోటి డీప్గా ఐ థింక్ వన్ ఫుల్ డే సెమినార్ ఆల్సో విల్ well this topic is a new topic as a emerging topic. Before coming to this seminar I don't even know that what is CPC. Now I understood what is CPC. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for taking this seminar. I request my chairman to honor our speaker with a moment of that.
That as a professor, I have requested more than 16 students. Because our voice can be heard by you.
Thank you, sir. మీ ఇలాగా మేము కూడా ట్రై చేద్దాం సెమినార్ తీసుకోవాలి ఫ్యూచర్లో. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. అంటే ప్రోత్సాహం మనం ఏ కేజీ పెట్టారు దాంట్లో
You may help it, sir.
వెళ్ళచ్చు.
Okay. Why you
ఇప్పుడు ఇటు నుంచి